tragic. In those days, they did shock therapy, and San Bernardino has a mental institution. I believe it's still in operation called Patton, Patton, and she was in and out of there. And our dates were going around to the different foster homes to visit with his half siblings. I guess they're half brothers and sisters. And it was a real sad situation. But again, something that I didn't want to sign on to at that age, not knowing a lot. I thought this, it just seems this is pretty heavy duty stuff. And, only, I was 19, I guess, just turned 19. And so I just felt so much pressure. And so I was bitching one day to one of my coworkers. Her name was Joanne. She was new accounts. Cute. A lot of fun. Everybody enjoyed Joanne. And I said, I want to get out of town and I don't know how to do it. I need to leave. I need to get out of here. I was telling her what was going on, and I said, I don't want to marry either one right now, maybe later, but maybe never. I didn't know. And she said, why don't you be a stewardess? And it had never crossed my mind at all. I hadn't flown ever. As a baby, my mom took me and my older brother to Denver to visit my dad, who was on a plumbing job, a contract in Denver. And but other than that, I had not been on an airplane at all. And so she had been a stewardess for 10 months until she got married. And you had to quit when you got married. And she was happily married to Roger, and everything was going along great. And she didn't question anything. She quit, got married. But I wasn't even thinking that. I just thought, this is my ticket out of town. And so I took a day off work and I drove down to LAX, and this is before freeways. And I didn't say anything to anybody, so I didn't know how to get there really. And there wasn't Google. And I didn't know how long it was going to take me. So I left really early, and I got down there really early. And I had made appointments with American and Western, but they were for the afternoon. And here I am at the airport at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm coming along down Century, and I see off to my left, right off of Century, there's United, and then a little bit of area, and then Western. It was the offices, not I hadn't yet gotten to the airport grounds. And so I just turned my Volkswagen into there, and there was a sign out in front of United that said they were interviewing, and that they started at 9 o'clock. So I thought, okay, here I am. So I walked in, and there was a whole bunch of young women. And I took a seat. I signed up, took a seat, and then my name got called, and I went into a room with this man. I forget his name, but he was a real nice guy. And he was just asking you general questions about your life so far, like my big 19 years, what have you done in your life? And I had tried out for the Miss San Bernardino beauty pageant. And I told him that. And he said, well, how did you do? Well, I didn't do well at all. But I told him, I hesitated a little bit, and I just said, well, I learned a lot. And it made him laugh in a nice way. And I felt then that I had gotten the job, because it was really nothing. You didn't have to fill out a lot of forms. You didn't have to be proficient at anything. wasn't that kind of a job. Oh, yes. And so I went back out and waited a little bit, and then they called my name again, and he told me that I had the job. And this was not even noon yet. And he says, you just have to pass the physical, which I thought, well, I can do that. And so, well, I went home and told my parents that I was going to go be a stewardess. And they didn't know what to think because it had never, ever been mentioned by me at all. So it came as a complete surprise. My dad, there was a joke in the family because I settled on, I had a thing, well, okay, I'd like to be this, I'd like to be that. By noon, I wanted to be something else. By 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I had a different idea. And one time I announced to the family that I wanted to be a gym teacher, a PE teacher. And he said, don't buy your tennis shoes. Because he knew by the evening I would be on to something else. So for them to hear me say I actually had been hired to do this and that I was serious about it, they were flabbergasted. I was sort of. I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, I just a way to get out of town. That was really what it boiled down to. So as I didn't know anything about seniority. Seniority is everything in the airlines. So I kind of took my time. I had to be 20 by the time I graduated. So my birthday was in June. I think I got hired in, say, March or April. And you had to be 20 by the time you graduated. So I figured I would just put it off a little bit. Rusty had volunteered his draft, and he was up in San Francisco, or I guess at the military base up there. I forget what it's called. I guess it's Monterey, I guess. And not the name, but where he was. And he was going to get out of boot camp. So I ended up, the first thing I did was I bought a ticket on Western to see if I got airsick. So I flew from LA to San Francisco because I thought I would see what this is all about. And so I did that. There was a friend up there who went to Berkeley, so I visited with her, and then actually Jim came and got me, drove me home. But I thought, okay, I didn't get sick, so looking good. So then I drove my bug up to Monterey, attended Rusty's graduation from boot camp. And I thought, okay, I'm going to better say it's time to make a date. And I got a date to appear in Chicago, August the 7th of 68. And my parents, they were so sweet, they invited all the family friends, gave me a going away party, and everybody brought me things that they thought I would need, like things of toothpaste and different things, travel stuff. Which I thought, oh yeah, okay. Because I didn't know anything. I didn't know shit from Shinola. I just thought, here I go. And I was living. I had the most wonderful roommate. She's my best friend to this day. Her name is Cheryl, and we had a house together in San Bernardino. And she and my mom and my dad took me to LA and said goodbye. And United had given us first class tickets, which was like, my eyes were wide open. And this was definitely the longest flight, LA to Chicago. But I watched everything that the stewardesses did. I was just like on a swivel. I just thought, this is amazing. And we had just started wearing a new uniform, and it was a mini skirt, but it was a dress. And Jean-Louis, a French designer, had designed these, and so United was making a jump from a very serviceable kind of a blue suit with a little hat to this, all of a sudden, this 60s thing. These pretty, really sexy little uniforms. And so that's what I was going to be wearing. So this was the first time I'd seen pictures when I was hired, but I was seeing these girls in these little uniforms, and I just thought everything was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And so got to school, and it's a dormitory thing. 4 girls to a room, little twin beds, and each room had a bathroom, but the showers were more communal. And then it got really difficult because I had been on my own. Now I had all these rules. I couldn't even go from the building to outside to the swimming pool without signing out and signing in again. Now there's nothing around us but farmland, but they had such a tight lid on us, and I was not used to that. And I definitely wasn't worldly. I was independent, but not at all worldly. I was extremely naive. But I just didn't like that kind of control. Also, I had to start wearing adult clothes. I was basically a hippie. I was wearing loose Levi's or cords, t-shirts. I wasn't sophisticated at all. And I had to wear office stuff all the time. Couldn't even go down on a Sunday morning, which I found out, in Levi's and to go have breakfast. I got snatched by the back of my t-shirt, told to go back upstairs and change my clothes. So this stuff really got on my nerves, and all I could do, I saved I think we got $5 a week, and I would feed it into the payphone, crying, I can't take this. Take this crap. And my parents would say, Laura, it's like, what, your 4th week or 5th week? Training was 6 weeks long. And just hang in there. Pretty soon you'll be on your own again. So I'd hang up, go back to my room, and we got taught everything, of course, about the services, manners. I remember, which I thought was very funny, we had an instructor named Mary, and she asked the class, do any of you know what an artichoke is? Being from California, I did. But there were girls from all over the country, and most of them had never seen an artichoke. And I thought, oh, the hippie knows about an artichoke. And they don't. But things where they were trying to teach us things about the world without talking about the world so much, but just that we were going to be out now dealing with our primary customers, which were businessmen. Families didn't fly. Rarely, can't remember if I ever saw a woman alone. I don't think so. Maybe couples, but mostly it was businessmen, and that was our primary customer. So they were trying to get us sophisticated in this short period of time to be attractive to the businessmen. That's really what it was all about. The 5th week was 4th or 5th, I can't remember. It was all safety stuff, all emergency stuff, and that was a pretty stressful week. We learned how to evacuate an airplane, and it was in mock-ups, big airplanes sitting there in the building, and instructors who were yelling at us and uh, to do this, do faster, don't forget this, and then of course you're graded everything you were doing, every everything you said, of course your performance, and there were all the other tests too. About every day we had a test of some sort, and I remember one of my roommates in of the group of four of us was having a terrible time with the emergency stuff, and I think I might have talked to you about this when we were looking at the picture of my graduating class. And she had so much trouble, and she was crying, and we were all trying to help her get through that week, and she did. And I don't think I can't remember if anybody got sent home. I have a feeling that somebody did, but maybe one or two, but I can't remember. There were 60 of us that started out, and they were graduating 60 a week. That was the class size, and because the turnover was huge, and because of the restrictions, when I signed my hiring papers, I agreed that I would quit if I got married, quit if I got pregnant, um, quit when I hit 32. And it all seemed fine then. It's not quite 20 yet. And so I signed all that stuff. And, but what happened a lot was girls met their future husbands on the plane, either pilots or passengers. So people didn't stick with it very long. We didn't have a union. We didn't have a lot of work rules. It was just we just did what they said, and so the turnover was tremendous. It was also a time of great social change. Um, in '69 was essentially the beginning of the women's movement. We were already well into the civil rights movement. The Vietnam War was going on, and there was the anti-war protest stuff. Rusty went to Vietnam, uh, but not yet. But he was ended up there, and uh, so there was just a lot going on. Um, and into the mix comes these stewardesses, and so I graduated, and I remember the one girl who had so much trouble with the emergency things that she quit right after she graduated. She went through the ceremony and everything, and then said, "See ya." She didn't go any further than that. And in the last week, we were assigned bases. There were certain bases that were open and certain ones that were not. And they were still having nurses on the Hawaii flights because the flights were really long. And so you had to be a nurse to fly Hawaii. And so if you wanted to be LA or San Francisco, you had to be a nurse. The order of choosing was by birthday. And I was one of the youngest. There was maybe only a couple below me. I had made a friend, it was Candy, and we decided wherever we were going to go, we were going to go together. Candy was from Indiana, so she wanted Chicago. And I agreed, but then in the middle of the night, she was not in my room. I went over to her room, woke her up, and I said, "I gotta be by the beach. I gotta have an ocean." And the bases that were available to she and I were Chicago, Newark, and New York City. And I said, "Please, can we go to JFK?" And she agreed. So that's before we graduated, you knew where you were going. And so that's what we're doing. Now, graduation was really emotional. United was supposed to give each set of parents tickets, positive space tickets, but they screwed up somehow. And I didn't know this until like right before graduation. But they only gave my parents one ticket. And mom and dad, again, very unsophisticated, didn't know that they could call. And I didn't know that they should have called. So it became mom felt she couldn't come because she couldn't manage an airport by herself. She just felt that was not something she could do. So I was only going to have my dad there. And uh, which made us all sad. That was, and I'm really sorry that she didn't get that experience because everybody else's parents were there. It was just my parents got screwed over. But so Dad put my cap on, which I hated that hat, but I hate all hats on me. No offense, Alfonso, but he put the hat on, and that was the picture of that I hold quite dear. Uh, and all of us got all of us went through the graduation. There's a lot of tears, and you know, all of a sudden love your instructor who you hated for weeks. Although mine, I didn't hate her, but I remember one thing. Like I think about the third week, uh, she came into class. She said, "Everybody down to the weight room, not the lifting weights, the scale." Because of course we ate 3 squares, and they had all this stuff available, and everybody was eating, and a lot of them had gained weight. So that was the thing that that was our first introduction to weight check. That you had to maintain this certain weight, and you were going to get dinged, and if you strayed. But that was something that we all went down there and got weighed and made a note of it. And some were close to the cutoff. I don't remember what they were. They weren't realistic at all. But that was like this big shock to all of us that that was going to be part of it. We were going to be weighed on a regular basis at our bases. And so, anyway, but basically, I did like my instructor quite a bit. But now everything's all smiles, and we're all graduating, and we say our goodbyes. And my dad was going to go back to LA, and I'm going to New York City. And I think there was at least 4 of us. I'm not sure if there were any, but we were again given first class tickets and just the short flight. The stewardesses that were working the flight, they knew we were recently graduated, and they said they were quitting, and did we want to take over their apartment? Now, this is the first mistake I made. Candy and I, we said yes, and they needed two people, and we did it, but it was a stupid move, really stupid. First thing that happened is they took our money, and but they didn't give it to the rent, and so I had to call my parents and ask for money within the first couple of days. Let me back up just a minute. When you first go to a base, they give you rooms at a hotel until you find a place to live. And we were at the St. Moritz in New York City. Beautiful hotel, old hotel. At that time, all of them were old and gorgeous. And something that happened to us immediately, there were at least 4, I think maybe 5, but I'm not sure. And one of them I became pretty good friends with, and she was quite a bit older. She had gone to training once before and had gotten sick with something and was sent home. And she had tried again, and now she was graduating, but I think she was like 28 or 29. And we all went down to the bar at the St. Moritz, and we were kicked out. We had to have male escorts. if we were in the bar by ourselves, we were hookers. We were not allowed to be in that bar, even though drinking age was 20 in New York, but we were not allowed to be in there without a man with us. That pissed me off. And I didn't even drink, really. That, it was just something to do. And so everybody started finding places, but we had that place, and it was on Long Island, not in the city. But we didn't know which was which. We didn't really know anything. And again, no Google. And so we were in a place called Kew Gardens, and it's basically the suburbs, is what it was. But there was an area that was like all stewardesses in these apartments. And of course, then there's a lot of guys hanging around. And the apartment, because we didn't have any money now, both had to get money from our parents to be able to actually live there. So we had to take this place. And we were only there for a short period of time. I'd say maybe a couple of months, but we didn't like it out there. It was what they used to call stew zoos, because it was nothing but stewardesses from all different airlines, and a lot of guys just hanging around. And it wasn't the city. I wanted to be in the city. Thought if I'm going to be here, I want to be in New York City. So in the office, there was a bulletin board kind of thing, and you could put up a thing. We need a roommate. So Candy and I we did that. We took one of the notes and ended up in the Upper East Side. And this was much better. This was what I wanted to do, because you could walk everywhere, and I was going to museums. I was real close to the East River, and I could be by the water. And I found it such an amazing change from what I was used to. All the different neighborhoods. There was Italians, there was Chinatown, there was the Jewish section, there was the Greenwich Village, there were the beatniks then, and it was all just a fascinating place to be. And so I would walk all over the place, and I loved it. I just thought it was fabulous. I was on reserve,